Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday and Backstage with Cindy Rowe. I am your hostess, Cindy Rowe from Cindy Rowe Marketing, and I have a wonderful guest with me today, John Berlin. Hello, John. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Cindy. How are you doing?
I am great. Well, I wanted to let everybody know right off the bat that this is the final backstage of 2021. I will be gone for the next couple of weeks. And then I thought I'd take December off because for small business owners, it is always crunch time and such a busy season. So I don't want to put a dent in and take out their energy for what they can be focusing on. So, John, how do you feel about being my last guy on my show for the year?
I feel honored. It's great to, not everybody likes being at the back, but this is one time I do like being at the back.
You're pulling up the back end. All right. So, John, we've known each other for several years in different capacities, actually. But tell everybody a little bit about what you do currently. What is your job or your business, and a little bit about you, if you want to share.
Well, you told me we had 30 minutes to do this, and that could take 30 minutes all in itself to begin with. I am a business owner, excuse me, but of multiple businesses. Our main one is American Eagle Insurance, but I do also own Lucky Dog Slots in Poplar Grove, JJ's Deli in New Milford, and Junction Liquors down in Davis Junction. So, still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. And, at 61, I figured I'm not ever going to grow up, so why try now? So.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I don't want to grow up either. So American Eagle Insurance, is that a new business then for you, or have you had this insurance company for a long time?
Well, I've been a licensed insurance agent since 1980. So American Eagle actually came about. It's on its second go around. My dad and I kind of started this back in 1995, and I merged the agency with somebody out of Arlington Heights back in '99. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. And when I came to Rockford in 2006, we restarted American Eagle. So we've been located down in New Milford since February 2006. Excuse me.
I like how it's transitioned, and you didn't give up, and you redid things as you see necessary. And I imagine with insurance, it's ever changing, whether it's product services or just the rules and regulations. I mean, my background is the financial services, so I understand all those wonderful things that make us pivot a little bit, even when we don't want to, when it's uncomfortable. So how has it transformed from when you started so long ago?
Yeah, it's a great question, Cindy, because originally when I started it, I started with Bankers Life and Casualty in 1980, running Paul Harvey leads. And for those of you who are too young to know who Paul Harvey is, ask your parents.
I know who he is.
Yeah, I figured you would. But I started doing the life and health side, and at that time really didn't care for that side of the industry. Got into the property and casualty side, selling auto and home and business policies, and I really liked doing the auto and home insurance back then. It's as time developed, it became more of a service oriented, where we were spending more time trying to help people out instead of actually working with the clients to develop what they needed for the insurance. And as time morphed on here, I started getting burned out of that side of it. And actually earlier this year was ready to leave the industry, was seriously thinking of calling somebody to sell the agency to. And, a couple of years ago, I started doing Medicare sales, was like, okay, I'll focus on that. And then the other businesses. And back in March, I started seeing some things coming up about a financial group that I really became intrigued by. And, it was one of those that really laid on my heart of, you really need to check this out. And in May, I started talking some more to some people down in Arizona. Jamie Susi, who has become a very good friend and a very good mentor, has been with Symmetry Financial Group, which American Eagle is affiliated with, since last year, and we just hit it off. And as we kind of put it, two smart asses together, seem to be able to create a lot of success. And therefore, I've actually transitioned the agency now to where we're doing more life, some health insurance, the Medicare, obviously, right now because of its open enrollment. But disability, cancer policies, kids policies, and that. So from where we started 20 years ago to where we are today, I should say 20 years, I could only wish 40 years ago, to where we are today, it's been a big transition, but a great one.
Yeah, it sounds like you've really transformed, and almost like we had a conversation a few days ago, and I could just hear your excitement and passion in helping others, which I imagine is a very key factor in owning a successful insurance company, that you actually have to care about people, and you're not necessarily selling them what you think is the best thing ever. It's listening to their needs and finding a solution specifically for them. So transforming throughout those years and coming up with what you are offering now has got to be, what's the word? Fulfilling, satisfying.
It is, and it's the best part about it is, as I share with everybody, we're educators. And the first thing we need to do is have you educate us on what you're looking for so we can educate you on what you need to do. And, selling an auto and home policy, you're educating people and teaching them how they need to cover their house. But with what we're doing now with the life insurance and the cancer and the critical illness policies, it's a lot more personal because you've got people who have been through life situations. And, I was sharing with you the other day, we've lost two people just in the last week and a half to cancer. And one of them was a family member, one was somebody I grew up with. And the impact that just that disease itself had on the family, knowing that we have a vehicle to be able to put in front of somebody to help them out, it's more fulfilling. And ironically, I sat with a gentleman yesterday who we've known each other, but really didn't know each other. He knows me through the hospitality industry. And when I started talking to him about cancer stuff, he's like, there's actually policies out there for that. And he's 63 years old. And so him and I are actually going to be sitting down, him and his wife and I, next week to actually start to implement something put in place because he just went through a devastation with one of his family members. So it truly is fulfilling.
And it's such a I don't even, the subject matter is touchy because it's very personal, and we all like to think that we are invisible and it's not going to happen to us until we see it happening to somebody close to us, and then our life gets a little shaken up. But yeah, the fact that there is a policy out there now to help you and your family through such a horrible situation is it gives you a little bit of a sense of peace of mind, and I can't imagine, we don't want to think about all the bad things that could happen to us, which is one of the reasons that you might have life insurance, is so that your family is taken care of should something horrible happen to you. So that this new product or service that you're talking about with the cancer, can you describe that a little bit? So I'm educated a little bit more on it because I have a handful of people just in my world that have been, touched by cancer.
Well, sure. Here's the thing. Cancer is one of the leading causes of death, but it's also one of the leading causes of bankruptcy because the toll it takes on people, from the expenses that come into play. If you have to go, say, up to UW-Madison or Mayo Clinic, there's time off of work, there's travel time and everything else. And people don't realize that there's a cost to this. And as I shared with you the other day too, my mom got diagnosed August of 2014 with cancer. At that time, I didn't have the other businesses. All I had was the insurance agency. And I basically had to shut everything down for over 6 months to go home and take care of her. And, anybody knows you don't work, you have nothing coming in. And, and I ended up going broke through that whole thing. And looking, back on that time frame versus today, had we had something in place for her, the financial impact would have been so minimized. With the policies that we market for everybody, and I want you people to think about this. What would an extra $10,000 to $100,000 do to help your family if something tragic like that happened? The financial savings and the impact that it can have on a family, and being able to help save them money and put money in their pocket, basically, will tremendously have a safety net for a family.
Yeah. And yeah, having that, not only the financial, but the peace of mind that, things might be okay. Or, with your mother, I'm sure, she wasn't necessarily thinking about the impact it was having on you necessarily financially, but, and then again, you do what you do for your family, right? And there wasn't probably many other options, and you're going to take care of her. So you do what you can do. It's just very interesting, and I don't want to take up our whole time talking about that specific thing. But it's a necessity, I think, that there is something like that out there, and that we know who we can go to talk if that's something that piques our interest. So,
well, and one thing I'd like to touch on that too, Cindy, is a lot of people think, have the mindset that cancer happens to those in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. My cousin was 58. The young lady I grew up with was 60. But, we had a situation back in the early 90s when there was a big salmonella outbreak. My ex-wife's cousin was 10 years old, got diagnosed with salmonella, went to the hospital, only to find out afterwards that he was loaded with cancer at the age of 10. And the financial impact that it had on that family, was unbelievable. And again, we look back, back in the 90s, there might have been something out there for cancer policies, but we didn't know about it.
Right.
And again, who would think on a 10-year-old? But it can happen to anybody, and that's the big thing.
Yeah. I had a previous guest on K Cancer organization, and they actually help families with children with cancer through fundraising efforts and whatnot. And it was alarming to hear how many local families are affected by childhood cancer. So yeah, cancer doesn't know an age, and cancer doesn't know race. Cancer doesn't, know any financial situation. So, and you don't even think about some of the things that you mentioned, taking time off to work, traveling to places to get care. So there's a lot to be considered. How did you get into the business in the first place? I know you mentioned you partnered up with your dad. Was it kind of, father-son tradition, or?
Well, I don't know if it was a tradition, but my dad's dream always was for me to join the agency with him. And I did that. And again, I followed his dream. And my dream was always to be involved in sports. But, being 6'8", I was good enough for basketball in high school, but, going much past that, I wasn't that good. So, so I started working with him, and again, I enjoyed what I was doing, but again, I was following his dream. And there was a point where I was going to get out of the industry, and him and I sat and talked, and, we made some changes and did that. But, it was all because of him that I got to this point. So.
Yeah. What kind of words of wisdom or advice do you remember him giving you when you branched out on your own?
Good luck. Have fun. It was one of those, remember what it took to build here, it's going to take you to do the same thing there. So, and I just literally got off of a Zoom meeting about 15 minutes before we started this. And that was one of the things we talked about on there was, you take your first year to 2 years in this industry and you give it everything you got, and you're going to be working 12, 15-hour days. And, your family, if you're married and have kids, better be prepared for that. But it's especially what we're doing now with Symmetry Financial Group it's so rewarding because they've put things in place for us that we get compensated right away instead of having to go through some of the battles that I had to go through over the years.
Wow, yeah, that's impressive. So, funny little backstory. Um, my dad wanted me to join in on the family business, and he owned a John Deere dealership, and I'm not a farmer. And he used to say, just think of all those farmers wanting to talk to a blonde chick. That's all he kept. I'm like, yeah, they're not going to want to talk to a blonde chick because I don't even know what a combine does. Like, so I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And it was not until about 5 years ago that I was welcomed into his business family to help him run the storage units. Now, I can run storage units, but I have no desire to, and no offense to farmers, I just knew I didn't know and I didn't want to learn it. Like it was not, I didn't care.
Right.
So it's kind of funny. I love talking to other people that were in family businesses because I feel like that is the heart of America are the family businesses and it's really cool when you hear the stories of working together, and it's not always easy.
Not at all.
But I think it could be rewarding, at times. So I have a question for you because I knew that you had multiple businesses. And I feel like the insurance one doesn't fit with the others. So how did you come up with, or where was that opportunity? How did you know to take advantage of the opportunity for those other businesses and get that started?
Well, I actually started in the hospitality industry when I was 15 years old. Worked for a restaurant in Algonquin called Burger and Brew. And that's why I laugh today when people sit here and say, we deserve a hell of a lot more money than what we're getting paid. And let me help you out. I started at $1.90 an hour and had to play cards, cut the deck with the boss to get a 5-cent raise, let alone a 10-cent raise. So I have no sympathies for a lot of these today over that. But I enjoyed the industry, and I was in the industry as well as doing insurance up until 2002. And as far as working the industry, then I got out. But I still stayed in because of the insurance, and then I had some business owners that had asked me to help consult and oversee some things. And then when the opportunity arose, unfortunately because of my mother, a buddy of mine had owned a couple places, had very good success with them, and I says, look, I have no money, but you have the money, you have the spot. In one of your buildings. So let's do this. And literally within 15 minutes, we put the whole concept together, which started JJ's Deli and Slots in New Milford. And because of that, I learned how to do that industry because, involved with the video gaming, I did not know in the past. But it had led to the opportunity for other places from there. So when you really get down to it, I've been in the hospitality industry 46 years. The insurance industry 41 years, and I sold cars for 3 months. Outside that, I've done nothing. Well, and I also do carry a real estate license, which too.
So what you're telling me is you're a people person.
That's what I'm told.
I think you have to be, and to be in business for that long and in those industries, you really have to like people.
Well, in the hospitality industry, you either love it or hate it. There is no in between.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not for the meek of heart because dealing with the public is not always easy.
I think everybody needs to do that, though. I feel like everybody needs to have an opportunity to work at a restaurant once in their lifetime, just so they can deal with public. And I think your eyes are wide open after that.
I think they ought to do one other thing too, Cindy, and that's all. They all need to work on a farm for one summer.
Well, I
You
don't
make it keep
know.
working on that farm. It's no disrespect to, I mean, your dad did the John Deere thing, but I did it for 2 summers, and I'll tell you what, it opened my eyes to a lot of things, and it also toughened me up on a lot of things too.
Yeah, they work really, really hard. And
Hmm.
it's long hours, early hours. Yeah, I know. I watch them. It's harvest time right now, and
Yep.
yeah. So we talked a little bit about some of your, not necessarily setbacks, but hurdles that you've had to overcome throughout the years. But I want to know, like, what's one of your biggest achievements that you've had? Like the woohoo! I want to celebrate. I want to, jump up and down off the couch or whatever. Uh, Tell me about that.
That's actually kind of easy, as far as in the insurance industry, and I will tell you that actually happened back May going into June. When I was, like I said, ready to walk away from everything, and Jamie Susi and Sarah Reineke and them came into my life. I pinch myself every day, like, where did this all come from? Why did it happen? You know, and Fran has always tried to teach me, things happen for a reason. And I have had more fun and helped more families out in the last 90 days than I did probably in the last 3 years.
Oh wow.
And it's so for me to sit here and say that, and we have such a great culture there. There's people from all over the country that's part of this team, and it's the fastest growing team, through SFG right now. And it's because of the culture that's there. And, you're happy to get out of bed, you're happy to go and do the things you need to do. And, you don't care about working the 12, 15 hours. Like tonight, I'll be in my office till 10 o'clock tonight. I choose Wednesdays to do that. Um, and it'll be 10 o'clock before I know it, and just because of the fun we're having.
Yeah, and the amount of impact and that you're having on people's lives is
Hmm.
pretty awesome. One of the other standard questions that I like to sneak in is what success means to you. How do you define success?
Success to me is not financial, contrary to a lot of people's belief. It's the amount of people that we can help, and being able to see the smiles, the peace of mind on the families, that knowing that they got helped out, that they don't have to worry about certain things now, and be able to put their head on the pillow at night and be able to sleep peacefully. To me, that's success because it's, as I shared with somebody the other day. It's not about how much money I make; it's about how much people I can help, because in turn I'm helping myself down on the long run.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't define success through financial status or money at all. It's the impact that I can have on people is really, and then knowing for me personally, like being able to be better than I was yesterday and
Hmm.
just keep trying to grow and expand, whether it's my knowledge or my belief in myself, or whatever that might be. Personal development's really big for me, and that's how I define success. So I think we're kind of very similar to that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Here's the thing. Think about it. If you can make yourself 1% better today than you were yesterday, you're having a successful day.
Yeah.
And again, I firmly believe the people you put around you, because I mean, I've had some, had a rough week last week, but fortunately, because of the people that were around me, they didn't let me swallow in, the stuff that was going on. And again, that's why I say May, June this year is where the hurdles actually started and changed a lot of things.
Yeah, that's great. So, all right, one last question, and then I'll let you promote yourself however you'd like. But let's say somebody's watching this and they are or have been thinking about going into the insurance business, but really not sure how to get started or where to go. What words of wisdom, advice do you give? How do they find the right company, the right products? Like, where should they start?
Well, I think first off, they got to ask themselves, what do they want out of life? Because just because they want to come into the insurance industry doesn't mean that this is where they need to be. We
Mhm.
are an organization that is out to help people. And as long as you have a helping mind and want to be able to help people, then yeah, we can teach you how to do it. But the big thing is you have to have people who have a burning desire to succeed. Because if you think you're coming in here punching the clock, it doesn't work that way. We're not a 9 to 5. We're not even an 8 to 8 half the time. But you have to have a burning desire to succeed. And one of the biggest things is you need to be coachable. If you can do that, like with our office, we have training systems that are already put in place. If you want to go into the property and casualty side of things, you can go and look at an American Family, an Allstate, or State Farm. They have those kind of programs put in place to do it. But the key is you're not getting rich right away. Too many people think I'm in the insurance industry and, I'm going to make a lot of money in my first year. You're not. Your first year is getting to know the industry. The second year is developing everything, and the third year is when you start to hit the financial reward for it.
Yeah. Good words of wisdom. I don't know if people that are watching here live or on the replay, if they watch Gary Vee at all, Vaynerchuk, he talks about the 7-year commitment that you really do not see the bread and butter of all your work and efforts until the 7th year. So you may have to, like you said, put in all those extra hours and figure out that you can't be with your family all the time when you want to, and have your priorities straight on your business. And if you continue to drive forward, after that 7 years, that's when you really see the fruit of all your labor. And I think that's true. I'm on my 5th year of business, and I feel like I have more freedom and flexibility now than I ever had. And I'm at that pivotal point of, do I keep climbing or do I just stay where I'm at? So, but I feel like if I keep climbing, I'll definitely follow right into where Gary was talking with the 7 years, and not giving up, right? Like it's like you said, like you've had rough times, you've had moments of doubt, but you kept pushing through and you kept finding something that will almost reawaken the purpose of why you're in business. So, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about what you do and your previous years of working really hard. I like to give the last few minutes of my show for my guests to promote themselves however they want. I'll put up your Facebook page and your phone number, but floor is yours. Go ahead.
Well, first off, I appreciate you having me on here. It's been a whirlwind the last few weeks with a lot of stuff. So I'm grateful for you and grateful for what you're doing. But just so everybody understands, here with American Eagle, we are here to help people. And as we talked before about the education side, we want you to educate us so we can educate you on what's there. But one of the things we want to really look at helping people, when you look at the life insurance side, a lot of people think it's just a death benefit. And we've got programs out there that can actually help you, especially if you start with the younger kids, and it doesn't really matter the age, but the younger, the better off, that you can still have a death benefit, but build a very substantial savings in that life insurance policy to help you out down the road, help your family out down the road. And, instead of relying on banks, can actually help rely on your life insurance policy. Just again, how can we protect families? That's my biggest thing is what we can do to help protect you. I've been spending a lot of time with business owners lately on making sure that they're taking care of their employees, but they haven't looked at what happens to them if something happens to them. What's going to happen to the business and the family that's there? And, so we've been putting some things in place for the business owners lately too. So we're happy to help you. We're happy to sit down with you, review. I think that's the biggest thing a lot of people have forgotten. And I'll be honest, I did too for a long time, doing a financial review of what you have, and you don't have to do it every year, but I would suggest doing it every other year. Being able to sit down and, are we on track for where we want to be? Do we need to make some changes? And the last piece of advice I'm going to give anybody right now, if you are working for a corporation, working for a company, period, and the only life insurance you have out there is what that company has on you, you need to talk to me or somebody like me, because the day you leave that job, that life insurance is no longer there. And if you have health issues that develop while you're working there, when you leave there, not saying we can't get something done for you. It's a matter of whether it's going to be affordable for you to get it done. So talk to us now while you're healthy, and then we'll be able to help you out from there.
Really great words of advice. I appreciate that. Well, I have your Facebook page if they want to find you, follow along, and your phone number if they want to call and schedule a consultation, and an email address there if they are too shy to give a phone call and need to just send you an email. But thank you so much, John. I learned a lot, and I feel like you provide something that everybody needs. And whether they get it from you or somebody else, I know that you have brought some questions that they need to think about and maybe chat with their family members about. So I appreciate that very much. If you need health or life insurance, any kind of insurance coverage, let John know. And thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I can't believe it's almost Thanksgiving in a couple weeks. And the rest of the year, and stay tuned to my page, my business page, for upcoming shows and cool announcements. Thanks again, John. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks. Appreciate it.